down, yelling out money, anything, ayy. Ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross, if they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. We're going to talk about the number one thing that I get asked about literally 75 times a week. How do I build a book of business? How do I find customers? What do I do? There's a lot of people out there who I feel, again, I'm including myself in this. You get lost in the sales process. You get lost in like, what are we actually trying to achieve out there? So we're going to be talking about all of that. And I'm going to bring him up right away, because he wants to do the lane analysis with us as well. So I love when guests want to dive in, and I want to welcome Mr. Dan Annunziata onto the show today. So Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Great to be here. Excited to spend time with everybody today.
So you've never done a live stream before? Is that what I saw you post up there earlier?
I've never done anything live. I'm a first-time podcaster in the last 90 days. It's all been recorded and then released. So this is a first live event for me. So we'll see how it goes.
Dan, I look at it like this. Just like in business development and sales, there is no second take, man. You got to be able to perform right away. And, I don't know. I've been doing this for so long now. I kind of forget that, especially on the live stream too, because I started out doing pre-recorded, and I started doing the live stream 5 days a week, probably like 3 years ago. And dude, it's kind of addicting, right? Because it's like, you never know what the episodes are going to go into.
I mean, just drop me in situation and I'll figure it out. So let's rip.
Dude, that's exactly it, right? So, we met about 8 minutes ago for the first time, and I can tell that this is going to be a phenomenal episode already, just because of A, your energy, but B, your overall experience in the industry. So I always like to lead off the show with first-time guest. Dan, how did you get your start in freight? What brought you into the industry?
Oh boy. Well, my grandfather started in freight after World War II, and then he got my dad into freight about 40 years after that. And then my dad had a 45-year career in freight, and now I'm about year 19 here. So I've really only ever known freight. My first job was in a warehouse, hand unloading ocean containers in South Florida. So that was pretty terrible. I was like, man, I got to get to the fax room. And so those were my summer jobs, were warehousing and fax rooms, until I figured out I needed to learn how to sell and get myself out of the warehouse.
Yeah, man. It's I started, so like my family's been in trucking since essentially the 1930s, when my great grandparents immigrated from Germany.
That's
and
awesome.
My dad drove, and like my first job was washing his rims on his truck when he came from off the road, and and then from there it went into warehousing, and same thing, man. Like I always knew I wanted to work in trucking. I always wanted to do it, but like for me, it's like now at this point in my career, I love the thrill of the hunt, right? Like I love developing business. And when we get the business though, I like handing it off to ops to run it and build it up, because it's like, I don't know, man, maybe I'm just my wife says I have, plenty of ADHD and everything else under there, but it's like, I like that thrill of the unknown. And then once we get it, passing it off and then letting people who are better at managing the accounts run with it.
I'm a big believer in sell and hand off. That's most of the life I've ever lived, and I was not a great account manager nor a great carrier sales rep, so I stuck to the sales side of things. So I generally have that same belief as you.
So what's when you were out there, I mean, you worked for the largest freight broker in North America. And what were some of those skills that you were able to develop there that still translate out to you helping people in your current role?
Yeah, I I think Robinson did some really cool stuff early on where they instilled great business acumen and just business fundamentals around like how to run a business and like what was important to run a business. So like quickly in my career, I learned what a P&L was, and how we all made money was that P&L had to grow, and we all rallied around that. And it was like when the revenues went up and that up and to the right, that was good, and we got bonuses and we got to do fun parties, and it taught us how to run a business. And then when the economy like 2008 hit, it was like, holy cow, I was like first year in, and like we had to let people go. So like the reality of like running a business like hit real quick. And very much the way that you had to grow as a leader there was to lead a P&L.
Mhm.
And I just took a job and went and led a P&L in the middle of Connecticut, like leading ops roles. And so just good business fundamentals early on at Robinson. And it's funny because like I actually didn't believe, like I didn't realize Robinson was a broker until I left Robinson, because like the first like campaign I ever came into at Robinson was like a beyond brokerage campaign. So like early 2000s, like our thought process tried to switch from just like being a broker to being more than that, because that's when also we brought LTL into the mix. And to your point of like what was important, like doing good discovery with your customers was important, because we had to figure out like how to talk to them about just moving truckload and like, oh, who does your LTL? So we actually had to retrain ourselves kind of in how you do discovery with customers.
What's one thing, because it's like I know a lot of people, and I started out at one of the largest freight brokers in North America early on in my career. And, I never understood the value of the big business mindset when you're going out there and you're trying to develop business. And the skills that I took away from that is like, man, you have to be able to perform at such a high level out there because the competition is so fierce. And then when you do get out into, higher volume customers and higher volume lanes and stuff like that, like what is it that's really going to separate you? And when you have that ability to offer multiple modes, you have LTL, you have warehousing, you have all of that stuff, brokerage, you might even own assets as well. It's a different play than what a lot of people are in that environment is when you do go out, maybe you start your own brokerage, or you go out and you work for a smaller company, like you got to really hone in to get noticed out there when you're developing business. Because I've been self-employed now for 6 years. I've been building my own brokerage now. This is year 4 for us, and the most
Awesome.
success we've had when we're developing business is staying inside of a niche. And that niche is, whether it's full truckload, whether it's LTL, to get in the door to develop the business. Now, after the sale, and again, there's 2 separate things. Getting the business onboarded is one portion of it. Growing and scaling that business through multiple modes, that's a completely different process, in my opinion, from my seat of actually developing it from the start.
No doubt. Like I remember like just the tenacity of like wanting to win business early on. And I was like I was always the youngest like sales guy in the room for the most part early on in my career. So one, I had to overcome like this guy is like has no idea what he's doing. He's right out of college trying to sell me some like LTL solution. So one, I was like, all right, I have to show up like sharp. So like I can't show up like some chump. So I did like show up on my game like from day one. And also like we were still endeavoring, this was early on in like selling both like truckload and LTL plus like our TMS together. So we were packaging things together, and like the big business thing that I enjoyed at that point in time, like Robinson was large then, but it still wasn't too big where we were like still figuring out how we won deals and like how to make money, and like we're trading, like trying to figure out carrier pricing. So it really, one, you had to show up like right away and like say, hey, we have something different than what you do today and you should consider us. And then you have to actually show them like how the solution is going to work. So it was like actually bringing that to life. And then it was like, all right, internally, it's like we had to figure it out. And that was like where I got to see the inside of like, all right, we actually have like LTL loads coming in on Monday. Like, what the heck's happening? Like, who's moving those things? Like, the carriers are picking those up. So like that's where it was also selling, but I got to see the like nuts and bolts of the business as well. So I think the customer experience, like quickly, you have to differentiate yourself quick and be like, hey, there's a reason why I'm in front of you. And like, they have to feel like something's different than what the next person's knocking on your door about quickly.
How are you guys working with organizations right now to kind of build it up? Because I've talked about this a lot, and I think a lot of people might have a hard time believing that systems development to me has been the hardest part about building a business, in going out there and actually deploying a process. Because when you're bootstrapping your business, you have limited capital. All right. And that's another thing that unless you're out there in the trenches doing it on your own, you don't comprehend, because you have an expense account, you have all this stuff, and you're operating in the system. So how do you guys approach that when you're working with clients for the first time?
Yeah, so like I've just flipped sides of the table. So I went from the last 15 years trying to figure out how to sell freight solutions to every type of shipper in North America, every solution you possibly could think about. Um, from some vantage point, to now trying to say, hey, I think sales needs to be better in our industry. And I think sales needs to just be better in B2B in general. And I would tell you, like, to your point about systems, and historically, it was all about who had the biggest sales forces, right? Like the just sheer mass of who had the most bodies generally won. And because like I led some of the largest sales organizations, so like we had the most assets focused on trying to win business. So like we should have won. But now with tech, I think you can have companies with like not as many salespeople do a lot more damage if you put the right system in place. So we're trying to actually come at things from the like, hey, we're building some tech, but we also know how to go to market really well. And so one, we're building a like thinking about the future of like what's a salesperson of the future, because tech and AI will disrupt sales. And there's lots of salespeople in our industry, and a lot of not good salespeople in our industry. And like I think the name of the game is how do you take like your best 30% and just amplify them to do more, so you don't even need to carry the bottom 50%. So we're working with companies, one, and we have to show up, and how we're showing up is saying, hey, I was on the other side of the table. And a lot of the conversations that you're probably having around like, hey, how do we grow this company? Like, who do we have to sell to? How do we deliver a go-to-market strategy? So like that's what I spent the last 10 years thinking about. But now we're really working with clients on all things growth. Like, am I selling the right type of customer? How do I go to market? I still believe in like one, AI is gonna disrupt a lot, but like it's not gonna replace the human sales person. Like robot won't sell to robot quite yet.
Mhm.
And it's about taking your good salespeople and getting them in front of a more commercial opportunity. So it's really about making the system that gets them into the market as efficient as possible. But then also, when you get those salespeople in front of the clients, they need to be well trained. They need to be ready. They need to show up well. They have to be able to do good discovery. So it's really thinking about what's the future of go to market, and what do we have to look like, but also like how can we, with a 15-person sales organization, do what maybe a 50-person sales organization used to do, because you can do a lot more behind the scenes with tech to accelerate things. And then that's the tech that we're building from like a practitioner view, not from like, hey, I built some cool tech in Silicon Valley, I'm gonna like try to sell you, it's gonna make you sell more. Because like I've bought all that stuff too and tried to like poke it into CRMs all over the place, and it's kind of a mess. So yeah, we're trying to change the game in like sales and logistics to start, and then B2B in general.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that people are and like people get confused that like there's a difference between a business development rep and an account manager. And I think that gets blended in this industry because there are so many cradle to grave operations
So
out there.
many, so
And
many.
most
It's like
people,
95% of the
yeah,
industry.
dude, most people stop selling after they get a couple of accounts because like to the most people, man, selling sucks. The rejection sucks, all of that stuff. People have a very hard time with it. It takes a lot to develop that off switch where you don't let it affect you emotionally for multiple days in a row. Not saying everybody doesn't have their bad days, but it's like I look at it where when you're out there now and your talk about with tech, like I'm a firm believer this. My very bold goal for my brokerage, we're going to build $100 million brokerage with 10 people because of the
Yeah,
amount of
right.
automation that is out there today. It's doable, but in a couple of years, it's going to be a lock, in my opinion, because just like with you, man, I've seen all the tools out there. I've had them on my show. I've demoed a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, and I'm just like, as soon as we can get these systems to actually connect and these integrations are done, it's going to be a lock, man, because you can amplify your output. Like I look at it where you can still show you're a human. And like my thing is 95% of my role as a broker can and should be automated. You've probably experienced that as well. But that 5%, which accounts for 95% of our revenue growth, my prospects need to know it's still Chris Jolly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They need to feel that about me. And that's one thing that I'm trying to balance out right now. How do I show that human touch? But also like, dude, we got as good of a tech stack as anybody else out there.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fascinating to see what the industry looks like in 5 years, because there's still like 95% of our industry goes to market in a cradle to grave environment where it's like a person calling a shipper asking for a load on almost a daily basis, and like fingers on phone calling customer. Like, will that exist in 5 years, or how much automation exists in like that disruption? I mean, you have massive companies built on that go-to-market strategy. But I also think that's why we're at a pivotal time on companies diversifying. And so you see a lot of companies diversifying into new modes or new products to have something other than just one model. Or you see companies also trying to like diversify out of like more of just enterprise truckload into something like, oh, I got to do LTL now. So I think it's be fascinating to see, but that also just presents a new challenge because that's a new go-to-market that people have to think about. Because like you generally have to do something different to go to market with something new than what you're doing currently. So we're working with a lot of companies on that as well, and I think it's just fascinating. But it's really ultimately like, how do you deliver a good sales rep experience to a customer in a B2B buying experience? I think there's a lot to be had there. Like you see a lot of people on LinkedIn talk about like how bad of a sales experience they had from some salesperson or sales experience in our industry. And I just think that's my point, is like, one, it can get better. So like we need to get better, but then it's also just going to get, I think the strong just distance themselves from the rest by using technology to amplify them.
So speaking it's a good segue into, because like I was saying, we do This Week in Freight powered by DAT, and we do a lane analysis out there, because one of my things that I like to focus on as a sales rep is it is the fundamentals. It's about reading the market and then providing consistent pricing in a spot market environment, because not everybody out there is an RFP, right? Like not everybody out there has contracted freight. There's a lot of stuff that moves on the spot market. And I feel like from my perspective, it's my job to keep the rate as similar as possible to my customer. And then, obviously adopt with seasonality on it. So the lane that we're going to break down right now here, quick, Dan, it's Minneapolis, Minnesota to Scranton, PA for a reefer. And I got it pulled up here on the screen. When you're out there, how are you reading lanes when you're selling into customers, when you are talking about like, hey, we're a subject matter expert in some of these things? How do you look at something like that and then deliver that style of comfort to your customer to where they're like, Dan knows what he's talking about?
Well, try to understand what motivates them to like make a change. Like, is it going to be, I have to provide them a low cost? Like, do I have to be the lowest cost carrier to get my foot in the door there, or like do they care more about like stable pricing over like the whole year, or is like the contract spot? So try to quickly assess what their intent is to buy, and like also quickly understand like the volume, seasonality of the lane, and then like, are they using an asset or are they using a broker? Kind of gives me an idea of like, all right, got my strategy in the back of my head. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get in here now.
Yeah.
Quick psyche.
Yeah, for me, it's like I take such like a 101 approach when I am in that discovery phase of things, because I always thought, Dan, that everyone was telling shippers everything about, like, you look at just like the big ones like DOT Blitz Week, days of the week and when they're shipping their product out there, and like how that affects pricing, how that affects capacity. And I stopped assuming and started taking that 101 build out approach with my customers, because I was literally shocked at the amount of shippers that I was working with early on in my career that just relied on well, this is the way we've always done it. We never thought that that was another option because nobody explained that to us. And, for me, it's like with this lane in particular, it's 1,000 miles. This is a great Monday to Wednesday lane. But if you have a shipper out there that needs to ship it Thursday to Monday, Friday to Monday, it's going to come at a higher price point out there, because it's going to cost more for the carrier to hold on to that freight for an additional day, unless they live in the destination city and they're like, dude, this just gets me home, send it over. But it's like, I realized that because, we were able to identify cost savings for our customers based on the days of the week that they were shipping this product out. Because I'm like, I can come in here for less on this. Can you guys ship it on this day or this day? And, again, man, it's just one of those situations where I think at times people with experience assume everybody knows all of this information. And I've had multiple customers of mine stop me and be like, Chris, you're a transportation company. We are a manufacturer. We look to you to tell us this information, and nobody has told us this.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. Like that's like when you turn into like more of an advisor, trusted advisor, while still moving their freight versus like fighting off everybody for like a $5 on a price difference. I mean, that's a difference ultimately in a lot of, I think, the skill of like business development, sales, like all that in our industry too, is like how somebody can not only get their foot in the door, but also like turn themselves into not just a commodity. And you have to do that through either like showing up differently, like providing data and like being resourceful and adding value to just the buying experience, but also like quickly being able to like build rapport with people too, to like also get into that space of like, hey, they trust you for more than just moving freight. But it's wild to me. Like when I was, sounds like freaking old man statement, but the selling back in like 2008, like we just like sent them email rates. None of this stuff was even available. Like it was wild. Like even super small shippers didn't have any of this. Like if they were buying it on a quarterly basis, it's like, wow, you're buying sophisticated. So like when we showed up like early on at Robinson, we were able to like package LTL with like annual truckload pricing. People were like, whoa, it's a pretty good deal. Like we'll try it out.
Mm-hmm. No,
but now today's stuff is so much available to everybody to like inform them.
And that's why, again, like for this lane in particular, it's a power lane of power lanes. Like outbound Minneapolis reefer is always solid from a capacity standpoint. But again, like the playing field is level. And, this one in particular, like I said, you guys, like the seasonality of it, it's one of the rare lanes that we've broken down here recently that's on the come up. It's been pretty stable out there. But again, my stability markers that I see is I like to look at that $200 variance out there. Again, if you're in a contract, you're going to have to wear it at times. You're going to have to service the account. But if you're in the spot market truck and hand style one, this lane is coming up on the carriers. And if you're a carrier out there, get your trucks in Minnesota and position them east, because it's paying quite well out there. But, Dan, to jump back into the conversation, I look at with where we are from a tech perspective, there is no difference between the data that's available at your disposal as a sales rep than what the largest freight broker has, and then that one person startup. Like you have access to all the same, because like pricing used to be a competitive advantage back in the day. It's not anymore, man, when it boils down to it, because there is no way a sales rep at Robinson, for example, there could be a difference here, is selling based on a price. If we're looking at it a truckload by truckload basis on that lane in particular, we're both bidding around the exact same thing. Like there is not that much of a difference where you guys have, or guys at Robinson or some of the larger providers can come in $500 to $700 less because they have some secret capacity network that's out there. It just doesn't exist anymore.
It definitely closed the gap fast. And like, it was wild. Cause like, so to other side of perspective, like we had verbiage in our like go to market and like company verbiage about like data advantage when we did have a data advantage over everybody. And not to say like, it doesn't mean, and yes, like people can access things that a small company, one person company can get pretty close on buying data from somebody to get like close to what used to be a data advantage. I'd still say like some of those big companies were the last defense line in the difference is like, I think they buy truckload transportation very well still just based on sheer size. So maybe they've lost some of like the data advantage and like leveraging like, oh, we have more truckload pricing data than anybody else, but they still do buy well. But agreed, like it is wild to think like, so that'll be interesting. Like how many companies, how many $100 million companies with 8 to 10 people pop up here, and what does that look like? But then also like, what does that mean for all the other rest of the industry too? Like those $10 billion companies, like who are the next like companies coming up out of nowhere?
Man, I don't know. And again, I could be very wrong with this statement. And I'm very aware of that. I don't know if there is going to be an explosion of many billion-dollar brokers moving forward. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I look at it where people are going to want more of a boutique experience again. Like, and I'm saying this because like we went from no AI and automation to a lot of it overnight. And I think we're going to reach a point in the near future that people are going to only work with companies that they have met in person. Like, and I don't know, man. Again, I could be wrong in this one, but I just don't think you can uningrain 100,000 years of tribalism of human DNA that's running through our brains and bodies in 48 months.
I agree with you. I think there's going to be a big swing back now to, and I've spent the last 10 years trying to study every shipper in like North America and like, why do they buy? What do they buy? Like, do they buy TMS? They buy modes. And I think the options in the marketplace aren't great right now. Like, I don't think they're getting good experience from like all the big companies, because those companies are trying to digitize customer experience more than anybody. Mm-hmm. And then, but they have good pricing and people still buy from them. But I also think with all the legality stuff going on in the space too, like it will be interesting to see what like the future. I mean, some of that has to still play out, but I think it'll be fascinating to see what I think companies with multi-modal, multi-product offering that's still in the buyer perspective, I think is swinging back to like, hey, I want more of a person-led experience. I don't want like robots involved in my customer experience that much. And especially in like, if like the middle market of like shippers in America and like North America, those are the ones that we're talking about. Like they want a more person-led rep experience and boutique and customizable as well. Agreed. So I think it'll be interesting to see what like service offerings and where companies grow, because I think you have a lot of other companies that have strong either modal or product offerings that are now trying to get into other modes or products to diversify themselves. And I think it'll be interesting to see how well that goes and like what that changes, like even like 3PL, 4PL conversation too in our space. So you kind of have people pushing into all sorts of different parts of the businesses.
Yeah, it is. It's like I look at where the industry was when I first started back in 2011 was when I first started brokering freight to where it is today. It's incomprehensible our capabilities today than where we were when I first started. And I think now that timeline in the next 12 months is going to be incomprehensible. You could literally come back on this show in August of 2027, Dan, and you and I could be like, did not see that coming, but look at this new tool that's at our disposal. But again, I think that for me, the focusing in on the fundamentals, because like, with all of our customers that we're moving freight for today, not one of them have asked about my tech stack. They are still just as concerned as they were pre-AI and automation boom. Is my truck going to show up at 2:00 today? Where's my driver?
Yeah.
Is it going to deliver on time? Is it going to deliver with a clean bill of lading? Like, so it's like, again, as much as we can automate and amplify our outreach, I do not like, I am doubling and tripling down on the fundamentals, Dan, of bringing that sense of comfort that, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
We might be able to do some really cool stuff, but like, I also know this industry like the back of my hand, and I know what's important to you, because if your product doesn't get to your customer, there's 75 competitors that produce that exact same product that are willing to swallow up your market share with that customer of yours.
No doubt. I've read many years of what's important to why customers buy from you, and it was WTF, where's the freight?
Yeah.
And it was like, honestly, it's like basically just every year they said, like, make sure my freight shows up where it's supposed to and where you say it's supposed to, like that. And that customer experience is different across many different providers. So I think that's a load level experience point. But I also think like how they buy more packaged or managed solutions or different modes together, because I think shippers want less options. They don't want to do business with like 20, 30, 40 different vendors. So they want vendors that have like more strategic partnership opportunity. So I think the diversification is key for companies to be able to pull it off. It's not easy to do, but then that also changes their go-to-markets and how you go to market. So, and those companies can go to market now with 5 and 10 salespeople that used to require maybe like 40, 50 salespeople to really put some firepower behind it. So I think that's the fascinating part of like getting your message out there too, and like the dynamic between marketing and like field sales organizations and all that fun stuff too. So social media has changed the game as well.
Dude, it is. I never once thought when I first started doing all of this stuff, I never thought that this was going to be a business development avenue that it has from a shipper's perspective. Like it's wild, the exposure that this podcast has reached and some of the familiarity that it's built up out there. Like, dude, one of my prospects, he was like, I got him on the phone finally, and he's like, wait, are you the Chris Jolly from LinkedIn? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, dude, I want your stuff all the time. It changed the entire dynamic of the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it is
immediate rapport.
Exactly, right? And that's my thing is it's like you need to be able to use, I know we're over here a little bit on time, but it's like you need to be able to leverage multiple avenues now to get your message and your brand out there, where
you have to. Just so much noise.
Dude, it is, but it's like it's also really easy to separate yourself from the noise when you have your content strategy of just focusing in on a specific thing. Because like, dude, I stopped trying to play the algorithm 5 years ago. I'm like, it changes all the time. I don't give a shit. My message is simple: fundamentals, best practices in freight, talk to as many people as I can in the industry and build a catalog of valuable information that anybody can listen to and hopefully make a couple of bucks out there and improve their business.
You know what beats the algo on LinkedIn is just hustling and networking like crazy. And like, I went from basically like the C-suite to like an individual contributor for the first time in like 15 years. Yeah. So I've like, you know what doesn't get me in front of more people is the algo. Like it's me like knocking on doors and going to marketing events and conferences and stuff like that. So like, I think the sales experience is critical to like setting the tone that like you're human and like you're gonna actually like knock on their door and not be a crazy person, but also like give it a white glove experience. But that doesn't mean I can't use tech to like get me in front of more people. So like that's what I think it's the balance of that, and that's what companies are going to struggle with, because like I feel like I saw it like the man trying to go to the machine, and then I saw another company the machine trying to go to the man. And like, it's a struggle. Like, what do you digitize and what don't you digitize? And like, what are the key fundamentals? And like, there's companies in our industry that are just like, hey, we're rep led. Like, we're going to be a human rep economy. And like, that's our go to market. Like, we're going to say, hey, I'm your guy. Give me your freight every day. And like, we'll see where that goes in like 5 to 7 years. Cause like, again, it's a bunch of people still making phone calls, asking for freight every day. So I'm fast. I've been around the industry forever. I mean, I'm actually the first like truck guy in my family. Everybody else was freight forwarders and like I mentioned, warehousing. So like my other side, most of my family is the freight forwarding international side of the equation. But I also think those companies are fascinating too, because they move a ton of freight that connects to like the North American ecosystem too. So like, do some of those freight forwarders start to participate differently in truck freight and North American freight as well? So I'm bullish on the industry because I've been around it so long, but I'm also fascinated to see where I take it. And that's also why I'm trying to, I sitting on the other side of the table, helping companies think about growth differently has been fascinating too, but I still have to like go out and sell and drum up pipeline and that stuff. So that's been wild as well.
Dude, it's the best, man. Business development to me, you're either all in on it or you avoid it like the plague, man. And for me, it's like, dude, it's just like connecting the dots out there and then seeing it's like, all right, how do I leverage all of my industry knowledge and bring it in a different mode? Because I will die on this hill, do the opposite of what the masses are doing, and that's how you get noticed. Plain and simple. It sounds very, very simple out there, but when and this is just what I've seen and built, because like I built this media, I had no fucking experience doing this, right? Like I built all of this off of YouTube University. And when everybody was running to the right, I turned to the left and I sprinted to the left. And that's where all the results were. I was told by so many people, don't do that. Don't do that. No one's going to listen to that. No one's going to adopt to that. I got a track record that proves the opposite of that. So it's like, I just went with that against the grain and it worked. And I think like, that's also another thing people need to focus in on.
Well, I'm like agreed 100% on that. I mean, I'm off of 2 huge companies. I've only worked for the man before. So like corporate America was like 18, 19 years of my life now. And now I'm like independently, like doing my own thing in a lot of regards. So it's like, you got to figure some stuff out and survive, kind of like doing it live on your podcast here. But yeah, there's something to be said about that business development knack that you have to take and like going against the grain. I think that's why I think there's a lot of momentum to not go for the man and give it a try. So that's what we're doing here too.
Dude, I love it. Dan, I'm going to have you back on at some point soon, man.
Yeah, whenever. Let's do it.
I loved it.
I'll get you on ours too. Road to revenue. Let's go.
Let's do it, man. I love that. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what you guys got going on though?
Yeah, LinkedIn, active on LinkedIn. We built a technology called Revagent. We think it's first of its kind in terms of accelerating salespeople and amplifying the best. And then the salesdream.com is our website. That was the original sales technology training that we built after training 5,000 sales and account managers across the industry. So LinkedIn, any other form of communication, pretty likely you can find anybody anywhere these days.
Perfect. I love it. Dan, thank you so much. If you guys can't find Dan or the Sales Dream out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with them. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.